There we go. Hey, this is Jay Skinner, and you're on the pre-show for the Buyers and Sellers Show. And I know there's a bunch of people going to show up, and I'm so glad you made it. We give it a couple of minutes here for everybody to get on. I always advertise it at 10:35, and we're live at 10:35 Eastern Time every Friday morning. And then this show lives on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch, believe it or not, forever. Here we go. I'm going to take a sentimental journey. I'm going to set your heart at ease. I'm going to make a sentimental journey to renew old memories. I got my bag, got my reservations. I spent each dime I could afford. Like a child in wild anticipation, long to hear that all aboard. 7, that's the time we leave at 7. I'll be waiting up in heaven, counting every mile of railroad track that takes me back now. I never thought my heart could be so yearning. Why did I decide to roam? I'm gonna take a sentimental journey home. And we're live. This is Jay Skinner, and welcome to the Buyers and Sellers Show. So many people are interested in this show because who doesn't want to make their business better? And you know, a lot of times we talk about sales and selling and all that. Well, how about someone that knows all about sales and selling and the sales process? Plus, he thinks out of the other side of his head, and he knows all about building a business and the management and the finances and all the important things that go into it that becomes the bowl that the sales guys sit in and make things happen. So without any further ado, I want to bring my friend and mentor, Mr. Mike Kerrison.
Hey! I had no idea that you had that much talent. I met you 15 years ago, and I thought, this guy gets it, and you and I connected then, and we've stayed connected all these years, but I had no idea you could play the piano like that and sing the way you do. So a skill I wish I had and don't.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much, Mike. Mike
Of
Kerrison, many of you that are coming on, I see people adding right now to some of the different channels here, but some of you know Mike, some of you don't. And I've encouraged people to get on to this. And what happens so often, and you all know it, is that you don't get a chance to be here live, but you certainly are able to watch the broadcast later. But look, we've already got a comment. Let's see who's here.
Okay, good.
This is Tanner Kirby's all the way from Turkey.
Oh, nice.
Tanner,
that's
so
magnificent.
glad to see you here.
Yeah.
Tanner's from Turkey, and he says, what a great show. He's got a business that does a lot of stuff, and one of the things is his equipment into the printing and converting industry. And believe it or not, I'm going to tell you, Tanner and I are getting together next week to talk about some of his business and how it might translate into working over here in the United States,
Wonderful.
which he already has established.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I love that. Good, Tanner.
It's a big world, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I want to read, Mike, what I bring you on, and then I do all the talking. What is wrong with me? Here's the thing. I want to read something that I just sent to one of my biggest friends and customers. And what Mike Kerrison does, and by the way, here's his book I got this signed by Mike. Landing on Your Feet. This is one of his books.
Yeah, that was 2003. That was my first book. Yeah.
There you go. And I'll tell you that was an inspiration. And then my work together with Mike back in there around 2008, 2009, and up to now has been an inspiration. But here's what I sent. And this is a message to everyone. if you wanted to look at retooling your whole organization top to bottom and have someone as a management consultant type with a systematic and proven track record doing it for the past 30 years plus, watch Mike Kerrison on my show today. His new book outlines his method, and he has done it for himself and others. And I have worked with him for many years. His credentials are amazing. This, Mike, I love you, brother.
Thank you. Jay, love you too. Kindred spirits. Yep, for sure. And I admire your show and what you're doing. I'm grateful to be on it. So thanks for the invitation. And I hope I can help today. I really do.
I know you can. And look at this. There's Dr. Say Boer.
I see that.
He is the president of Christian Leadership Training International, which
Wonderful.
is in Liberia. And that map back there is Liberia, Africa, where in the last couple of years, we've built a Christian school with Western style education that will ultimately house up to 1,500 kids. And Dr. Boer runs that whole thing and is part of the vision that did that. He built a university, and now he's built this. And he's an African.
I am a Christian as well, and quite frankly, I don't right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what I'm doing, and I find my life is so much more balanced and steady when I try, albeit fail from time to time, to lead a Christ-centered life, and that's how I run my businesses and everything else I do. So anyway,
amen, brother. Me too. And Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas. Yeah, great time of year for sure.
So everyone, we're going to get right into this, as all of you know, that within, I try to make this 30 minutes up and down. Sometimes we don't hit it, but with Mike, oh my gosh,
I'm a blabbermouth. We might go over.
You're great. Anyway, I titled this The Question, and those of you that watched and looked at the promo here know a lot of background. But Mike, let's just get right into it. And if you would just talk about kind of what you do, and then about that question, and let's go. Let's help somebody out there be better.
Okay. Well, I from the time I was probably 15 years old, my father died when I was 15. So we were kind of penniless, poor, didn't have a whole lot going on. Mom was broke, God bless her, and scared, without her husband. And I was playing 3 sports in high school, and so I learned how to work a long time ago, and how to survive. And so those instincts and those unformed kind of manifestations started at a very young age. And I think it really has carried me into my adult life, which led me to sales. I started my career with IBM back in, I'm dating myself, but let's just say a long time ago for now. But
excuse me, but we're talking to one of the original IBM salesmen. The whole IBM sales thing is legendary, and
it was the greatest experience of my life. IBM invested 1 year in your training. They spent a lot of money to get you ready for the field, and they demanded performance, and they got you mentally tough. And so these were skills at the age of 22, 23. And the good news is that even though you're 22, 23, I realized that it's not how old you are, but how much value you can bring to the table. And if you know computers and how they work and how they help businesses, I can sit there in a vestibule and talk as a salesman to a 50-year-old running a company, a manufacturing company, and talk all day long about what the computer can do for them. So it was a perfect time to learn sales, to learn business. And I walked thousands of factories, for example, in those days. And those formative IBM years shaped my sales skills. I was trained by the best in the world. I think it was probably the best sales force in the world at that time. I've never seen one since, even today, I'm afraid to say. But I would say that led me to my first business, which was started in 1980, where I was buying, selling, and leasing new and used IBM computer systems. And it was right in the middle of a recession. It was 1980. I mean, there was 19% interest rates. There was 1 mile lines to get gas. I mean, it was a nightmare time to start a new business, but I was too young and naive to know any better. So I started my first company. That went from 0 to almost 26 million in sales in the first 5 years. We made the Inc. 500. Then that industry changed, and so we had to figure out how to adapt, which I didn't know how to do. And we ended up in the software business, selling large, sophisticated ERP solutions to manufacturing companies, which of course was my wheelhouse. So, but the transition from buying and selling and swapping and doing deals in 10 minutes went to 10 months. I mean, that was a massive transition for me and my team. So we learned for the first time how to transform a company. I call it a bifurcation of a company. And it's scary because you find yourself, the old model doesn't work anymore, and now we got to get on to something else if we're going to survive. But, again, Jay, those survival instincts had always been there. So that led to my software company, which was a great run. It was a great run. I ended up building that and selling that with the hardware company together in around 1996, I would say. And then there was a third company, which was an extension of the hardware business, and that was a maintenance company. And the maintenance company sold and supported IBM customers that were paying way too much for maintenance for IBM. And we were able to do it at about 30% off. And frankly, we were more responsive. We had better parts, and we made things work. We fixed things rather than replaced things, which is a great skill. That thing took off like a rocket. And then finally, my third company was a company called North Central Consulting, which was basically professional services, IT services like application development, systems integration, onboarding and training new software solutions, and all of that. And that was a rocket in a bottle rocket. I mean, it just boom. It went from 45 consultants to over 300 consultants in 5 years. And then we sold that in 1998. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that every one of these organizations was a new experiment for me, and the learning curve was massive. When I sold the business, I flunked early retirement. Golf got really boring. I found my sense of purpose and direction drifting. I was only, 48 years old at the time, and I thought there's got to be more in life. And I had an old fella that I played golf with. His name was Billy, and Billy came up to me on the golf course and says, number one, these guys are so old that you got to settle up on every hole just to make sure you get paid, right? You never know when they're going to go down. And the second thing that I learned was I was losing my sense of purpose. And so I started to realize that I've been given a lot of gifts, and I've learned a lot of things through my own stubborn determination to get things right. And I got things wrong a lot. So I wrote the first book about all the mistakes that I made as opposed to all the success, because I never really learned anything from the mistakes. I only learned from the success. That's like a scorekeeper. Whereas the mistakes were like, wow, these are the true teachers. And yeah, most of the time I learned from them, but I'm human. I make mistakes all the time. But when I sold the business, I realized I got to get back in the game. And I'll bring this to a conclusion here quickly so we can get on with the show. But I met with one of my friends who was really struggling with their company. And they had seen me do some things that they wish they could do for theirs. They saw the sale of my company. They were hoping to be able to do that too. So I went to Perkins with a buddy of mine, and I sat across from him, and I listened to him just tormented and lamenting about his company and the culture and the people and the customers. And gosh, he just kind of hated his own business. And I thought, wow, let's change the direction of this discussion. So I asked him this question, and it stuck, and it has stuck my entire career, because inside the question is all the answers that every business leader needs. And here it was. If you could create the company that, if it existed today, would put your company out of business, what would that look like? Now, I didn't ask it. This is much more rehearsed today, but back then I was like, Steve, what's going on, man? Can you describe something better than that? I mean, what do you really want? And this guy went on for another hour and a half defining an ideal organization, the one he really wanted. It was in his head, in his heart, but he just couldn't get it out into the universe, so to speak. So I finally stopped him. I said, wow, sign me up. I would want to work for that company. What you just described is fabulous. Let's do that, right? And so, so it led to the early stages of my company, which is Endurance America. And I also have another company called Kerrison International. We can talk about those later. But I began to shape and form business models, strategy models, sales development models, training models, leadership models, all designed to help an executive team to create that company, that ideal organization. Most of them can talk about it, but then they got to get into the runway. You got to put it in play. And that's where things break down. So business is so simple. It really is simple. Find a customer that's got a problem and solve the doggone thing, but do it better than anyone else and do it with integrity. And don't be ashamed of your prices. Don't defend your prices. Defend your value. And then I see, then customers just like, well, where do I sign up? I mean, so selling is about solving problems. And every sales organization that I've ever worked with, they're trained the wrong way. They're taught, have a good opening, make sure you ask the right questions, be all these things. And that's important. That's called a structure. The structure is important. And yes, that does have to be taught. And I teach that. It's called the structured sales cycle. But what goes into the structure, the content that supports the message, that's got to be absolutely customized to each and every organization. And so I have a real sense of frustration when I look at sales training because the training models that I see don't do that. So to me, having that partner to help develop a sales force has to know your culture, know your sales team intimately. They got to know your marketplace. They got to know your products. They got to know your services. They got to know what the sales process looks like, and how to make money at it. How do you actually price and make money at things? And then on and on and on it goes. So those are the things that I do today. That's a big answer to a short question, but and I've been doing it for 22 years, and it's just been a magnificent ride. And I think I've helped 250 companies during that time, and it's been wonderful. So it's a good question. Thank you.
One of the things I popped this up over the top of all this, because one of the special things about you is everybody that has a company wants more sales and everything like that. But
of
you understand that the bowl, the foundation of all that's got to go. And one of the cool things is that you understand it. And here's a picture of Mike, everybody, explaining it on TV. You guys got to know Mike Kerrison. See, we talk about, he's been doing computers since they were invented. I mean, and it's like,
true.
And he's been doing on TV and audio and broadcast stuff and everything since there were tubes and amplifiers. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike is one of the pioneers.
Ooh,
in
good word.
Stuff. You really, you are. Now, here we go. Look at this. We've got some people here. One is Terrell Gray. And let's see, Terrell says, hi, Jay and Mike. I catch what I can today. I'm teaching substance abuse class shortly. Saturday, speaking to the church in Mexico. Speaking to the church in Sunday, speaking to the church in Kenya. Looking to learn in today's show. Thank you both. Terrell, oh my gosh, Terrell's from my town. He and his wife traveled to Mexico, and I didn't know he was doing stuff in Kenya. Terrell, if you got to go to Kenya, I got a trip going to Liberia. Maybe we can double up.
I like that. That sounds great. Yeah.
And here's somebody else. Now, John, talk about pioneers. This guy helped set up studios for Gittimer. You were both
neat.
Jeffrey Gittimer.
Oh, and who doesn't love that guy?
Gittimer set up years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
And John's another one of these pioneers in the industry. Okay. Thanks, John, for dropping by.
Yeah, thank you.
I get excited about the people that listen and stuff.
Me too.
So let's go back to that question, because I want to make sure that everybody sees this and they have time to write it down. I've been popping things in while you're talking.
Sure.
And one of the things that I want you to talk about, because so many of my customers are business owners, and they reckon one of the reasons I'm in business is the CEO extender is they're up to their eyeballs in projects, and I can act as somebody as an extension of them to help get projects done and work with them. But you are so much more structured in your approach to helping customers?
Well, I've learned how to do that. That I wouldn't say that comes naturally to me. Structure is a great word, though, because the way my brain seems to work, it works best when it has a model. I have to think about a business as a model so that I can see the model in my head, and that helps the creativity for me to launch. And it's hard to understand maybe in a podcast situation like this, but when I spend enough time with an executive, I kind of help them through the modeling process, because it's creating a vision. And visions are wonderful things, but ultimately they got to get down to the reality level. They have to go from an idea into action in order to create it. In other words, if you're going to create, right, the company that, if it existed, will put yours out of business, you got to do something. I'm working right now. I see General Mills on the. I've been working with General Mills executive teams for probably close to 15 years. And this is one of the coolest organizations I have ever had the privilege to work with. And they make food, right? And they do it really, really well. And they've had, like all years, they've had good years and they've had bad years. But their leadership is so devoted, and their culture inculcates positive change, and it empowers people. And so I walk into an environment like that, I think, man, this is like a kid in a candy store. I'm working with really powerful, wonderful people that have a real sense of direction and purpose. And when you're working with that kind of a culture, it unleashes and untaps the potential. So part of what I try to do is to build what I call certainly the strategy. And I have a model that has basically 5 simple questions. Where are we? Which is an internal and external assessment. Exactly where do we want to go? Which is precise goal setting. And it's not this, 30% growth here, 20% growth there, add a couple products. It's much, much more diverse than that. It's where do we invest? Where do we divest? Where do we hold? What do we milk? What can we change? What can we develop? So there's a whole host of important discussions that gets into where are we now? Where do we want to go? Precise goals. Then the third layer, and that's the hardest one, quite frankly, for most companies, is how are we going to get there? Sounds like a simple question, but when you really start to define the point A to point B, right? How do we make that transformational change at the people level, the product level, the pricing level, the P&L level, the operations level, the manufacturing processes, the supply chain changes, the interferences that are everywhere. I mean, you can paper up the entire, and we do, you can paper up the entire room with problems. Well, you can't solve 100 of them. So we try to filter that down to the top 10 that are mission critical. And I have a model that allows them to go through that process. And of course, a big part of that is the sales organization. I see where you're going to go. I like it. I'm starting to see how you're going to get there. I like it. Is the sales force ready? Are they trained? Do they understand it? Is it integrated with your strategy? And the answer is no. So then, right? And then they go to the execution layer and they're like, it's not working, because you left out an important part. We've got to sell this. We've got to put it on the street and people got to buy. So that's what I do. And then that fourth layer is who's going to do what? That's the fourth question. Who's going to do what? Which is all about the organizational model. In other words, and this is where like a guy like Pat Lencioni, I think I mispronounce his name all the time, but he wrote the five dysfunctions of a team. Yeah. Right. See, I love Pat because
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, there you go, The Working Genius. And that book, if I hate to speak for him because obviously he's so much better at speaking for himself, but to me, what it says is when you build an organizational model, put them in jobs where they can excel. So often you find that there's this level of incompetence. My wife knows how to do things. It's like being on a different planet when I watch her do it. I can't do those things, right? And she's one of the most creative people I've ever known. Andrea is her name. And she's a designer, she's a developer, she's a real estate agent. She's brilliant. I look at her and I go, I wish I knew how to do that. but I don't know how to do it. And I could take a stab at it, but I wouldn't do it well. See what I mean? So I'm setting myself up for failure. So a CEO and a team, they need to look at the true roots of professionalism and character and capability of the person, and then put them in a role where they can just shine, they can grow, they can self-actualize. See, that's the role of a leader. Everybody thinks that X's and O's and flip charts and whiteboards and all this crap. It's all crap. It doesn't work. But when you really get into the true development of people, serving people, now you've got a business. Now you got something that you can be very proud of, and it will grow. And then Christ, for me personally, I try to bring Christ-centered principles into that arena because, frankly, I think the guy, Jesus, probably kind of knew what he was doing.
So, he did. Hey, look, we got people here. Greg Sneed, look, he says,
yeah.
And is customer service there to back up the sales process?
Oh, so smart. So smart. Gregory, you are spot on. Here, let me say it this way, if I may, Jay, because this is an important topic, I think. The importance of the two words customer service. That's it. And so my thought is there are two kinds of people in every business: sales professionals, salespeople, and everybody else. Because the idea here is not that salespeople are more important than everybody else, because they are not. They're part of the family, the fabric of a business, but they're representing the company to the customer, right? They're the mouthpiece. They're the stronghold. They're the ones that convey your value proposition to a customer. They're it. So either if we're not selling directly to a customer, then you better be helping someone who is, right? So if the sales and marketing and customer service and manufacturing and all the other elements of your business, if they're all there for one singular purpose, serving a customer, that's it. You got it. And it's just so simple. And it's not X's and O's. The X's and O's are there to support the vision and the execution of that vision. That's why they're there. But they are not strategy. They are not planning. It's just a mirage of PowerPoints. And where do they go? They roll them up in a tube. They stick them in a warehouse somewhere, and they're never looked at again. But that's our plan. So I help companies to get through that kind of thinking into reality. And that is, how do I serve a customer and do it better than anyone else? And then
Keith Clark is just saying right here, he agrees with customer service. Keith is actually, he goes way back in the printing and converting and that industry, and he's one of the pioneers too, and well respected internationally.
I would love to know these people. I would make sure they call me or something.
Tanner's loving it, and Gregory had a little follow-up comment here. It says, and AI, artificial intelligence, can't help with customer service since bots do not have a soul.
Can I talk to that for a minute? Because when you get my book, Greg, when you get my new book, and my new book's coming out, it'll actually be out printable and ready to go in January. And it's going to be an Audible book, and it's going to be a hardcover book, and there's a Kindle book. Yeah, thank you. But when I open the book, I basically say, all right, guys, I need to vent here a little bit. I got to get this off my chest. And it's exactly that. I read an article that said that artificial intelligence, because it has the ability to learn, right? It literally can co-create, it can expand and grow its brain to the point where people think that it can solve problems for customers better than people. And I thought, and then would that be an interesting 100% club at IBM, wouldn't it? I mean, you got to be kidding me. They'd have 2,000 robots sitting in the audience receiving their trophies for the year. I mean, come on, that's not going to happen. And then this idea that 70% of the problem has already been solved because all a customer has to do is Google research and they've got their answer, and they don't even need a salesman to understand or salesperson to understand it. Baloney. Besides which, if you got 30% of it unanswered, who's going to close that gap? Not a robot. That I can assure you. People want to connect. We're human beings. We want to connect. We need each other. And we want to serve one another. And we feel good about ourselves when we make a personal contribution.
Yep. And Greg
There's
said,
no souls to robots. They're not going to be able to get it done. So that's
Greg says, service a customer to keep them a customer, not just to dismiss a complaint.
Bingo.
Bingo. Okay.
And when you see that in action,
I like it.
oh, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's in the customer. Here's the thing about loyal customers are altogether different than merely satisfied customers. Think about that. Loyal means I'm going to buy everything you got. I'm going to buy everything you come out with. I am not subject to the lure of competition. And I will stay with you even when you screw up because of the way you handled it. Because that's truth, right? That's truth. And that's what connects people. And that builds trust.
I love it that you're saying that, Mike, because Gittimer wrote a book, customer satisfaction is nothing, customer loyalty is everything. And that's a Gittimer book too. And I was like, it's like, and by the way,
well, he's a
know
smart
Patrick.
dude.
So will you, as long as we're talking about it, will you please introduce me to him? Let him know that we're friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to connect with Patrick in a big way. I was introduced to his work at AmericanEagle.com, the big digital marketing company that I use a lot. And
he's a Christ-centered guy too. You know, he's got great value system, and he's there's just no ego to that dude. You know, he just puts it out there, and he's so smart.
We need to be friends.
Those are the kinds of people that I like being around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that introduction. What I see there in his program is a systematic way of building project teams and understanding what it takes to make sure you have all the elements for success.
Real strong models.
Because everyone here that's listening, I want you to know that I have been in and part of Mike's programs. I was a client at one time. How about that?
You were.
Yeah. And
long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
It was fun.
And, I mean, the thing is that Mike can sit down with the ownership, the leadership team, the CEOs, everybody, and put together a program for them based on his analysis and understanding of the company. And then he's active. He's actively involved in doing whatever it takes in order for people to get through the steps and get things done. He's not just going to hand you a book and walk away.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't work. That really doesn't work. Here's the thing. One of the biggest aha moments for me was my experience was all small business. My third company grew fast. My second company, I think, got to about 65 million in sales. So ostensibly, they were all small to medium-sized companies. So I thought that small businesses have different kinds of problems, different types of issues than a big company like a General Mills, for example. But when I worked with companies like General Mills, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Ameriprise, Oracle, just to name a few that I've worked with, big organizations, very sophisticated, large organizations. Yes, there are different levels of process, and there's some structure to things and ways to do things that are very process-based. And in order to get ahead in an organization like that, you've got to know what they are, and you got to abide by them. You got to stay within your swim lane, so to speak, which I certainly respect. But here's the thing. At the boardroom level, at the executive level of a big company, the problems they talk about, the problems they face, the things that they have to do to get to the next level are no different than what small companies face. That was an aha for me. And so this authority tremor that you're walking into a Fortune 500 company boardroom, it's like, wow, this is way out of my league. It's not true.
Not really.
These people are no different. Now, they've got more responsibility. They have more scalability. They affect more people. Their decisions have higher consequences if they're wrong. And that's scary. And so these CEOs, that's a lonely spot at times. And so I gained a real appreciation for, one, what a CEO of a blue chip has to go through and how that compares and contrasts to the CEO of a small business. And about 80% of it is the same stuff. It really is. So that was a big aha for me. And it allowed me to bring the same kinds of models and ideas and programs and structures that work in a small business. They work really well in a big business. And that was an aha moment, because I thought that those were two different universes. They're not. They really aren't. So I thought I would share that with people, to know that when you're walking into a big company, they got the same stuff. It's the same stuff. We're all human. We're all trying to get better. So.
And Greg was mentioning that there is one of the big differences is they are dealing with shareholders.
Absolutely. And of course, well, we all see what's going on in the stock market today, and with stock prices, and the influences of those stock prices are something that a blue chip CEO has to pay attention to, because shareholder value is kind of their purpose. So, but the real question is, do I serve a shareholder or do I serve my customer? Well, it's a dual role. There's no doubt. So that was a very good observation. You really, but the only one that serves the shareholder is when a customer walks away loyal and happy. Absent of that, that shareholder's dust, right? And so is the company. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone, I want to make sure that I'm going to do a quick review here. Is we talked about the question, we talked about exactly what that question would be, and then we talked about the importance. Then is you convert that dream, the answer to that question, into action. Then that's it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Mike is available. He's here. You can. Mike's kind of a big deal. I mean, he's a big time.
Oh, I'm not a big deal.
You are.
I've just been around a long time. I've learned a few things. So
you have. It's like, and I'm so proud to be, your friend and get to work with you.
Thank you.
And
likewise, absolutely likewise. Yeah, it's been a great run.
Everybody catch this. If you don't remember anything else, just find MikeKerrison.com and you'll find it.
Yeah.
We talk about when you Google somebody's name, it tells you a lot about them. I think he fills up about the first 10 pages of Google. Mike's been doing it. So we got Greg saying bingo. A few succeed in pleasing both shareholders and customers, and Tanner's saying to increase our sales, all we need to do is just increase our contribution to our business to serve others and create more connections. It's like, thank you.
And people are drawn to that. People want to win. And so when you show up fulfilled, and people want to be fulfilled in their jobs, they want to be fulfilled in their marriages, they want to be fulfilled with their children and grandchildren. And fulfillment is an attitude. It doesn't fall off the planet and hit you in the head. It's something that's acquired through tons of hard work. And then that hard work develops your mind, your spirit, your body, so that you can serve others. And by the way, there are days when I get up and I don't want to do this job, just like everyone else. It's like,
just like everybody else.
I got a podcast to do. I got 5 calls to make. I got to be on my game. I'm having a C- morning. But the one thing that I have learned is that you can always apply an A+ effort, which is a choice. And you can apply it to a C- morning when everything hurts and you feel like crap and you don't want to do the job, but you've got to perform. You've got to do it. And that's important too.
Okay. So everyone, Mike mentioned this. He's got a podcast called Building the Breakaway Performer. It's every Monday and Thursday. Just Google it.
Yeah.
And wherever you like podcasts, it's there. It's awesome. You know how to get a hold of his website. And at the same time, I wanted to remind you that what we've got here is coming up is his book, Breakaway Sales. And this is going to be awesome. And Mike, where do people go to get this?
So I have an author website, which is breakawaysalesbook.com. breakawaysalesbook.com. And everything you want to know about me, my background, what's in the book. There's a free chapter that's downloadable. You can send me messages if you want more information and so forth. But it really explains the content, and it also explains my background. So breakawaysalesbook.com. real important website for you. The other thing I would say is if you want to know more about my professional background in terms of case studies and things I've done, then you can go to kerrisonportfolio.com, Kerrison, of course, kerrisonportfolio.com, walks you through more of a who is this guy and what has he done. So it's another way to kind of get to know more about me as opposed to just the book and its resources. So, and then I don't know if I have no problem with people calling me. I get a lot of phone calls, so if I don't return them right away, it's okay. But I can be reached at 612-865-0415. And my email address is right there, and it's really easy, mike@mikekerrison.com. And please reach out. I will do everything I can to respond and to help.
Yes. As a wrap up here, I want to say that Mike has this organized in such a way that business owners can work with him, and it's structured and organized that he can come in and just won't believe this is a professional training and sales classes, and then also management training, and then consulting with people where he has all the steps. And I was lucky enough to get to go through the manuscript of his book prior to publishing. And I said, Mike, this is your entire program from beginning to end. It's like a college book, like a course in how to do this. You're giving it all up, Mike. You're giving it all up.
Right.
And it's like if someone can read it, and do it and follow what's in that book, they can do for themselves what
they can.
People get you. But I'll tell you what, it's really great to get Mike. And it's very difficult really to follow someone's book and steps, but that's how detailed it is. So get the book if you want to understand the real details and specifics and steps of how Mike does what he does to build companies, grow them, fix them, whatever needs to be done from the management level all the way up to sales, selling, and customers. He's got the entire thing covered, and it's organized in a way that you can follow it in the book. And when he's live, unbelievable what he can do over a period of days and weeks and months, however he's contracted and working.
And the other thing too is a lot of small businesses might not be able to afford it, right? So the book will help support some of that. And then the second thing I did was I converted my classroom experiences, which takes 4 full days, and then there's a whole bunch of after courses to support that, because training it's not an event, it's a journey. And so I put it together as a journey. But I wanted to just mention that if you go to my my digital schools website, that's at mikekerrison.com. It's another website, but I broke them apart because they have different purposes. But that will show you the digital classrooms that I've built. And these are very inexpensive solutions for small businesses to get the exact same results and the same treatment. There's over 60 videos. There's a whole bunch of things there. So it's a resource, and I want people to take advantage of it if they can.
Couple other comments here. Keith just said, and I think Keith and I met each other somewhere around the time when you and I were first working together, maybe a little bit earlier, but he says, my first time meeting Jay at a show, his sales technique was to hit a plastic pallet with a hammer. Bam. And boy, did I hit that thing and say, look, you can't break it. It was great.
That's terrific. I love it.
And then see, Greg says, a sales farmer.
Big bingo. Seeds and soil, got a farm.
Mike,
get the bumper crop.
You are in just less than a handful of people that ever got more than 35 minutes out of me. You're doing great.
I'm sorry to take so much time.
But this is beautiful. It's very valuable. And I just want to give you a chance. Do you have any last last things to say to our audience before I invite you to go back to the green room, and I'll be back there to meet with you. But if you got any final words for our audience?
I do. Never forget why we do what we do. It's certainly self-fulfilling, but at the end of the day, as a father and as a husband and as a grandfather, I have responsibility to my family. We do this to support our families and their journeys. And so to me, that kind of takes it all. And that really does provide a sense of purpose. And And it helps us to be less selfish about what we do so that we can really make a contribution, not only to our customers and our businesses, but we can bring that same contribution home. And that to me is kind of the principles of balanced living. And I invite everybody to give it a try. I'm trying every day and I'm getting a little better at it. Not always, but that's kind of my final word.
Thanks for being here. If you step back, if you don't mind, go back to the green room. Please don't eat all the fruit because I'll be back there. And I'll see you in a few minutes. Michael Kerrison, thank you for being here.
God bless. Merry Christmas. Bye now.
And everyone, you've been on the Buyers and Sellers Show. I'm Jay Skinner. We're here every Friday from 10:35 Eastern Standard Time forward, for 35 minutes, 40 minutes. And I'm so glad you came. As you know, sometimes we'll have a guest like we've had Mike today. Other times I'll just be riffing on a topic. Most of all, you're on it and we have a chance to visit and talk. And I love your participation. So everyone, thanks for coming. Have a great day. And where am I going? I'm going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. Well, I'm going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women there. I'm gonna get me one. See you next week. Thanks for coming.